For years, the world believed this was as far as justice could go. Indictments, convictions, sanctions. But on a cold morning in January 2026, that belief was shattered. In the early hours of January 3rd, 2026, what had once been a political indictment became something no one could ever imagine. A sitting president of sovereign nation was seized by a foreign power. For decades, Venezuela had been racked by violence, corruption, and allegation of narco-state corruption. By 2020, the United States had indicted Nicolas Maduro on narco-terrorism and cocaine trafficking charges. Yet, he remained in power until now. What happened next would change the story forever. On January 3rd, 2026, the United States launched a high-stake military operation, codenamed Operation Absolute Resolve, that aimed at removing Nicolas Maduro from power. According to multiple sources, the operation began before dawn with coordinated military strikes against key Venezuelan military installations in Caracas, including La Carlota Air Base and other strategic sites. Explosion and low-flying aircraft filled the early morning sky as US forces executed the mission. After intense action, Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were captured by US forces and taken into custody. This was not a raid on a compound, it was a sovereign military intervention, and it sent shockwaves around the world. Hours after his capture, Maduro and Celia Flores were transported to the United States under US custody. In New York, he was brought before federal court to face the same narco-terrorism and drug trafficking charges that had been unsealed in 2020. His first appearance was dramatic. Maduro pleaded not guilty, insisting he was targeted and proclaiming his innocence even under US law. This was a historical moment, a former head of state in US courtroom on criminal charges. Global reaction was immediate and explosive. Supporters of the operation praised it as justice, a bold strike against drug trafficking and state corruption. Critics condemned it as a violation of international law and sovereignty. Nations in Latin America and across the globe south called the operation imperialist aggression. Legal scholars questioned whether such action had any basis under the UN Charter. The world was watching and debating what this meant for international norms. With Maduro removed, a power vacuum appeared in Caracas. Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president, was installed as interim president with the backing of influential military and political leaders. But the state was fractured. Opposition leaders argued for elections, hardline loyalists denounced US interference, armed groups and collectivists roamed parts of the country. The country was in transition, but it was far from stable. In the weeks following the capture, US authorities also began moving the controlled Venezuela oil assets, long a source of both national revenue and geopolitical tension. State oil company PDVSA began resuming exports under international supervision after a period of blockade, signaling potential shifts in global energy markets. This was not just a legal case, it was a geopolitical reset with economic implications. The legality of the operation remains deeply disputed. International law experts have questioned whether the seizure of a sitting president in his own country can ever be justified without UN approval. Critics argued the operation violated the UN Charter. It violated the principles of state sovereignty. It violated the norms of non-intervention. And yet, US officials defended the mission based on national security concerns tied to the drug trafficking. The legal ambiguity will be debated in courts, parliaments, and international forums for years. Thousands were affected by the military strikes and political instability. Reports indicate that in the early hours of operation there were civilian casualties, including non-combats caught in crossfire. Pro-government militias staged roadblocks. US citizens were warned to evacuate parts of the country. This was not a distant political drama. It was real in the streets. Maduro's legal battle continues. He stands charges in US federal court with narco-terrorism, conspiracy to traffic cocaine, weapons charges tied to trafficking. His case will test whether a modern superpower can prosecute a former head of state on its own home soil. The capture of Nicolas Maduro did not erase the allegation against him. It brought them to a courtroom in New York. Some call it justice finally delivered. Others call it a violation of international order. But one thing is undeniable. The world changed on January 3rd, 2026. No matter what side of history you sit on, this moment raises the ultimate question. When does the pursuit of justice become its own kind of power?